Let's start. We're live. What's happening with the camera, Pavel? Gosh, I look so pinky. Okay, yeah, I look very pinky. Good evening, guys. It's the 6th of, what is it? August, right? 8 o'clock again. Beautiful. We're going to do another webinar. I see myself in slow motion on my screen here. So I hope the imaging and the sound is okay. So let's see who's in here. Maybe you can actually confirm it in the chat. Is the sound okay? Can you hear me? I'm just going to see quickly. Let me put this stuff a bit right. I'm sorry guys, it just came in a bit last minute. So let's see, we got Kotar here. Welcome. And we got Kyle back again. That's amazing. All right, Kyle is here for his 17th, umptieth time. Been here so often. And we got Pascal Mueller. Sarah White, beautiful. All right, we got Serife. Okay, we got Shiny, beautiful. Okay, Sylvester, Yutsu, Siyad. All right, welcome guys. We had a lot of registrations on Meetup. It was more than 90 people. Normally we do a bit more follow-up, to be honest. So we have more people in the house, but we have been going through some crazy days here, having in-house lectures and all kinds of events. So it's been great, but we've been very, very busy lately. Also explains why we started 1 minute late even today. Now, nevertheless, definitely we want to make it into a nice webinar, and I want to give you something that is really going to work for you. Now, the subject itself is how to improve relationships, right? And be a better communicator. So maybe you're here because you would like to have some tools on that. Maybe you're here because you want to improve your communication skills. Maybe you're here because there are certain things that you would like to know how to do better. Well, maybe you can think of something. How do I approach a person? How do I talk to a person? How do I build that understanding? So that's going to be the topic of tonight. Now, first of all, let me ask you a question. Since we're a very small group, we have a few people here on Zoom tonight. We're also live on Facebook, on Instagram, and on YouTube. So let me ask you, maybe just as a nice short introduction, where are you from? Where are you from, and why did you come to this webinar tonight? What are you hoping to get out of it? Right, so Sylvester says, all good there, beautiful. I assume that had to do with the sound, Sylvester. Great, I'm happy you can hear me. So let's get into the first question. Now, what brought you to this webinar tonight? If you're a fast typer, maybe you want to share with other people where you're from. That's good to know as well. Traditionally, we have a lot of people coming from the UK. Now, we ourselves, we're based in Ireland, in Dublin. You can probably pick up my accent. I'm not really Irish or English or whatever. Actually born and raised in the Netherlands, in Holland. So I've only been in Ireland here for the last 3 years. But this is something I like to do. I like to basically inform others and pass on some technology. All right, so I'll give you a minute. I'm just very curious, what brought you to the webinar? The chat is open. I think you can just chat away and put something in there. All right, so we got Cardiff, Wales. Okay, beautiful. I haven't been there yet. I've been to the UK a couple of times, but have not been to Cardiff yet. Seen some pictures though. Seems very beautiful. Very nice nature, a lot of green hills, spacious. All right, so you're from the UK, Sylvester. Just want to be better at communicating. All right, Sylvester, let me ask you specifically, when you say communicating, is it, for example, approaching somebody new? Is it talking to somebody new? Is it keeping a conversation going? Or is it, for example, handle difficulties in a conversation, bringing forth something that you find is a bit of a tough subject to bring to the table to discuss? Or is it, for example, that you're dealing with people and they just keep on yap, and you can't seem to end the conversations? All kinds of things that we can run into. Maybe, Sylvester, you want to elaborate on that? So Faiza says, hi everyone. Hi, Faiza. Great to have you. All right. So Shiny Barreto. She's from Ireland. I want to be a better communicator. So I'm not awkward and run out of words. Okay. All right. Well, that's a good one. Cool. Okay. Let's see if anybody else responds. And then I actually have a second question for you. I've got a second question for you. Do you sometimes have the feeling that you're not really well understood by other people? Do you sometimes have that feeling that you're not really well understood by others? Just going to move that laptop a little bit more to the middle. Otherwise, I keep on disappearing from your screen. So do you sometimes have the feeling that you're not well understood by others? Do you run into that sometimes? Feel like, damn, I got the feeling that they don't understand me. I got the feeling like this person just doesn't understand me. Okay, all right. And then you get a phenomena like this, right? You like to keep things to yourself. Could that be like that, Sylvester? Like as a result, that you have the feeling like some people don't really understand you, and you prefer to not speak in order to avoid any kind of disagreement. When you talk to your wife, okay, I got you. Okay, all right. Well, thank you for your honesty. That's cool. Now, so communication, very, very interesting subject, right? So I think we can all agree that communication is really life. When you're driving a car, you're communicating with that car. When you're frying an egg, you're communicating with that pan on the cooker, right? And all the controls. You're in communication with the kitchen, you could say, right? And if you're at work, you might say you're communicating, for example, with the machine that you're operating. Now, likewise, we also communicate with people, right? That's the main thing. We communicate with people. We interact, and we exchange ideas and objects by means of communication with others. So we could say that if you can't communicate, that is like a symptom of being dead, almost, right? You could go to any store, right? And let's say that store is closed in the summertime because they're on holidays. And you perceive there's nothing going on there. That store is dead. Likewise, there's a store that might be open 7 days a week. They're alive. They're always alive. There's always somebody there. So the absence of communication, we consider that to be dead. And the presence of communication, we consider that to be alive, right? So a person who is a good communicator comes across as somebody who's very alive. And the person who is a very bad communicator comes across as a person who's a bit dead, if that makes sense. Now, having said that, in everything that we do in life, whether it's frying that egg, whether it's getting into the car and driving somewhere, there's always a purpose. There's always a purpose behind anything that we do. Whatever you do in life, there's always some kind of a purpose. So what do you think is the purpose of communication? This is really important. What do you think is the purpose of communication? Right, Sylvester, I think you elaborated there. It was good. Thank you for your answers. So let me ask you again, what is the purpose of communication? Why would you communicate in the first place? Okay, shiny. So to connect with people. All right, cool. That's a nice answer. I like it. Now, to express your feelings. Okay, all right, to be part of a group. Okay. That's all very good. That's beautiful, guys. Now, what would you say if I would say the purpose of communication is mutual understanding? Does that make sense? The purpose of communication is to reach a mutual understanding. Does that make sense to you? In other words, why would we communicate in the first place? Because we want to understand each other. We want to get something across and be understood. Does that make sense? To reach a mutual understanding. True? Yeah? Okay. So now, let's dissect this, because actually it has been discovered that understanding can be subdivided, believe it or not, in 3 component parts. So, understanding can be subdivided in 3 component parts. Makes it very, very interesting. Okay, so this says to agree or disagree. Yes, okay. Well, I'm just gonna go into that. This is very, very tempting, Sylvester, what you're saying there, to agree or disagree. It's very tempting. Because when you disagree, you don't really get to understand it, right? So, and in this world, on this planet, you very often see, just observe this, you very often see that people do not really reach understanding or communicate in order to reach understanding. It goes like, I'm a Democrat. What are you? Oh, you're a Republican? Do you know that is really wrong? There's no understanding there. There's just a quarrel. It's like 2 opposing forces. And the communication that takes place here is simply to make another person wrong. Obviously, you don't get anywhere with that. The only thing you will get out of it is animosity. You would never reach any understanding. But you see that is a lot that is going on planet Earth. A lot of people engage in a communication to win an argument. But honestly, that is not the purpose. The purpose is to bring about understanding. So let's have a look at how this works. But a person may disagree and understand another person. Yes, that is totally correct. Yeah. So you could say, I have a purple cat. And I say, okay, well, maybe there's something wrong in your head, but I don't have to disagree with it. I understand you probably like purple cats. That's totally fine. So we're talking about understanding, yeah? Now, is this visible enough for you guys on the board? Is that visible? I can see it on my screen. I just see the marker is not, although it's quite new, it's not super great. To me, it looks a bit grayish, but if you can see it, that's great. All right, so understanding 3 component parts. Now, thank you for letting me know it's visible. That's great. So let's dissect it. 3 elements. The first one we call reality. Now, what do we mean by reality? By reality, we mean the real things. What are real things? Well, real things are tangible things, or observable things, or things that you can perceive. You would say, well, that is a whiteboard. This clearly looks like a whiteboard to me. And Erik, I think you're holding a marker right now. All right, that's a marker. That's true. It's a whiteboard marker. So these are real, observable things. And for that reason, they're real. It's a reality that we can discuss. It's a reality that we can talk about. Now, what does that mean when something is really real? What does that really mean? Well, it means we can agree that it's real. We can agree that that is a whiteboard. We can agree about it because it's real to both of us. In other words, we have a common reality. We have a common agreement. So the word reality has this part, that something is really real to the person. And whatever is really real to the person, he can then agree with. Now, here's an interesting part. You will find out that mentally sane people, they have a very solid agreement on reality. And it goes like this. Hi guys, this is a whiteboard. Now, an insane person would say, no, that is a window. Now, hang on. This is really a whiteboard. No, you got it all wrong. That is actually a window. No, this is a whiteboard. A sane person would have a very solid agreement on the real things in life. And the insane person, like in our viewpoint, being sane people, the insane person sees things differently that we don't really agree with. Do you see how that works? So if you're very sane, then you would designate things the way they are, and you would not deviate from it. You would not say, well, okay, can be used as a window. You would probably not do that. Can you see the difference? Now, same people, they stick to the reality as it is. And insane people, they kind of like twist realities. Does that make sense? Not sure if that is an answer there, but no. Let me see. Any answers? Does it make sense that sane people, they very much stick to, if you see a pen, you designated a pen. You just say it's a pen. That's a whiteboard. That's a watch, right? So you wouldn't twist that. Now, here's another thing. So these materialistic objects, they're easily observable. And it's quite easy to reach an agreement. But when we're talking about ideas, so ideas are not tangible, they're not materialistic. It's a little bit harder to make an idea a reality to another person. It's a little bit harder to make an idea real to another person. It's a little bit harder to reach an agreement. So right away you can see that, okay, I'm holding up a book, all right, and right, we can agree on the book. So we instantly have agreement. We instantly see, okay, good, Erik is holding a book. That's fine. Now, if I try to get an idea across, it's going to be a bit harder to reach that agreement. Does that make sense? All right, somebody has been typing. Right, let me see. I think there are true facts and point of view, opinions, and the problem mainly arises from a lack of knowledge, lack of information between people. Some people have higher education while others were expelled from school. And it's difficult for such people to find understanding between each other. Yes, that's fantastic. That is spot on, Daniel. That's very good. That is very good. That factor definitely is included. Now, all right. So, reality, by reality we mean agreement. Does that make sense so far? That is the first factor in understanding. When we are trying to reach understanding, we're trying to reach an agreement that we agree on something, whether it's a tangible thing like a marker or whether it's an idea. So agreement is part of the understanding. Does that make sense? And it's true, Sylvester, it's harder, but it's not impossible. That's also true. Good. Now, beautiful. Here's a challenging one, which is the next one. Have you ever heard of this word, affinity? Have you ever heard of the word affinity? Maybe not, maybe yes. No, okay, good. So we need to clear up this word. It's a very, very interesting word. It has a very, very broad meaning. Now, it derives from Latin. And if you would speak Spanish, Portuguese, and there's a word there, it's called afinidad. Afinidad. And afinidad, actually, it means love, liking, or the lack of those two. So, how does that work? So you could, for example, have a lot of love for somebody or something. I could say, well, I love this tie. I absolutely love it. Yeah, I wish I could wear it every day. So I would say I have a lot of affinity for this tie. Or I could say, I love my wife. I love her a lot. I have a lot of affinity for her. Or it could also be that I say, you know, there's not much love, or I don't like something that much. Then I could say, I have very little affinity for that person. I don't like this person so much. I have very little affinity for this person. Or I don't have much affinity for that person. Right? You get the concept? Is love or liking or the degree of it. Now there's a very interesting thing when it comes to affinity. Just see if you get the concept. Love, liking, lack of. I have a lot of affinity. Yeah, sounds good. I got a lot of affinity for you guys. Right? You could say that, which is I like you a lot. Now, what do you think love or liking has to do with distance? What is the relationship between love and liking? Let's just take one. What is the relationship between love and distance? What do you think it is? The relationship between love and distance. It's a very interesting concept. Just going to have my tea again. I'm sure somebody is cooking some brain cells right now. What could it be? The difference between love and distance. Well, guess what it is? I'm going to show you. That didn't go so well, I guess, this marker. I guess you can still see it, but I don't like it much. All right, it can be short or long. Fantastic. So, I'm going to paint a picture here. There you see two people who like each other. In other words, the affinity is high. The affinity is high, they like each other. The distance is very short. Here you have two people. They don't like each other. The affinity is very low. The distance well, it's more distant between them. You see how that works? So in other words, if you like a person, or if you like an object, you would like to have this very near to you. And if you dislike a person, or you dislike an object, you like to keep your distance, so to speak. Interesting concept, isn't it? That can be mentally, but it can also be physically. If you like a person, you like the idea of having that person close to you. Not just physically, but also you think about that person. You care about that person. You love that person. So even mentally, you have that person close to you. The opposite would be you hate somebody. You can't stand that individual. You're going to make sure you stay away from that person. You probably prefer to not think of that person. Yeah, Daniel, all right. I have a girlfriend in another country, but I think we have a high affinity. Exactly. That's beautiful. Yeah, so because you have such a high affinity, you can actually shorten the distance because you love her a lot, right? So even by FaceTiming and phone calls and these kind of things, you still can be near to one another. Physically, there might be a tremendous distance, but mentally, that distance is actually very short. It's a beautiful, beautiful concept. Yes, that's true, huh? All right. Now, can you imagine what would be the optimum level of affinity? In any case, what would be the optimum level of affinity for you to have? What would that be? What would be the optimum level, the optimum degree of affinity for you to have? What would be the best level? Well, it would be more or less that you are able to be in the same space. You're just able, you're comfortable to be in the same space with the other person. When that happens, yeah, your affinity is quite good. If you can tolerate a lot of people, a lot of different people in your space, your affinity is quite good. You can imagine that there's people that have very little affinity. They're grumpy, they complain, they moan, or they're just simply bored. They're like, whatever affinity they express. But if you can have that, if you can still have them in your space, you're in a good shape. So, first of all, in order to have that, you should be able to tolerate other people in the same space. Now, do you know a person who does not like people very much? Do you know somebody who does not like people very much? Yes, Sarife, you do know a person who does not like people very much? Okay. Now, just assuming more of you guys also do know people who don't like others very much, right? So you do know a person who does not like people very much. Well, I can tell you, that person has a very low affinity. So there's a very low level of love in that person. That person doesn't love things much. He doesn't love people much. He doesn't like, and therefore he actually keeps people at a distance. So that person has a very low affinity. Now, do you know a person who likes others quite easily? Do you know somebody who likes others quite easily? Doesn't take him anything, doesn't take him any effort. Yeah. Or it's introvert. Yes, Sylvester, you're correct. Yeah. So likewise, do you know somebody who likes others quite easily? I guess you do. Yes, you do. All right. So now when a person likes other people quite easily, you can imagine he also likes himself. It's like a prerequisite. You have to love yourself before you can actually love somebody else, right? So if you like other people quite easily, your affinity is naturally high. And that's the whole thing. If you don't like others, it's just a natural law. If you don't like others, you don't like yourself. If you do like others, you're also quite happy with yourself. You do like yourself. Now, fortunately, if you're in either condition and you feel like, I would like to make it better, well, fortunately, there is something you can do. Yeah, that is the good thing. Yeah, it's not hopeless. It's like, oh my God, what a statement! That's so true, but that is me. Well, something can be done about it. You know, if you look back at when you were a child, for example, maybe it was that you were quite playful and you liked other people, you liked other kids. Life perhaps was a bit better. You had some more affinity. Now, Pavel, did you have that picture by any chance? Yeah. I want to show you guys a picture so you can actually determine more or less what the affinity level is of people. Right, here we go. So, let me see if I walk this way, I'm out of the camera. If I walk that way, I'm in the camera. Beautiful. Good. So, here's a nice picture with emojis. I think you can see that, right? So, and it represents an affinity scale. So, affinity is expressed as emotion. So, when a person is very happy, he naturally feels a lot of affinity. And he can lose that happiness a bit, and he's now conservative, contented, right? And his affinity toward you will change, and it will be a bit different from when he was happy. When he was happy, he said, "Oh, I'm so happy to see you," right? When he's content, he says, "It's good to see you again." Okay, now it can drop a little bit more, and he might now be a bit bored. I feel like nothing much is going on in his life. He doesn't see any immediate goals. And there's actually a lack of interest in people. It's a lack of interest in things, a lack of interest in people, a lack of interest in life. And the affinity, the love, the liking is expressed that way. It's like, well, yeah, I don't really care. It's fine, whatever you do. You know, it's okay with me. A person is bored. Now, maybe drops a little bit lower, it will go to hostility. And here it starts to get a bit nasty, right? The person's just bluntly criticizing you. You're doing it all wrong. You're always wrong, you. You know I'm right. I'm always right. Stuff like that, right? And he's like verbally arguing with you. There's a lot of argument over there. There's argue. You would hard to find an agreement. So, and below that, we're going to go to fear. Person has become afraid of people, become afraid of things, might be afraid to challenging situations, things in life, all kinds of actions, has a tendency to go away from it. Also has a tendency to go away from others. Below that you would have grief. Okay, so now the person is simply sad. And below that you have a kind of like an apathy. The person has just simply given up. Now, you've seen this in real life. Let's say we got little Johnny here. Little Johnny is he's quite a happy, cheerful guy. He's a young kid, and let's say he's just very, very interested in an ice cream. And he goes over to his mom and says, Mommy, can I get an ice cream? And he's totally expecting he's going to get that ice cream now. But he has no clue about the time. Maybe his mommy thinks like, yeah, but if I give him another ice cream, then he's probably not going to have dinner. So his mom is just telling him, no, Johnny, no, you can't have an ice cream. Okay, so he was just happy with the whole idea that he was going to get an ice cream. Now he hears he's not going to get an ice cream. So I'm going to ask you, is he going to remain in that emotion of happiness, or is that emotion going to change? So, and where do you think he would go to? So what kind of an emotion do you think he's going to take on next? He was all happy with the idea he was going to get an ice cream, but yeah, he's not going to get an ice cream right now. Okay, so he's get disappointed, right? Disappointed would be sad, right? Serife, would you agree with Sylvester that Sylvester says sad? Right, he might get sad, correct? Okay, now let's say that ice cream was super important to him. He was adamant he was going to get this ice cream. You bet on it. He was going to get his ice cream. Well, he was all happy about it, but he was adamant. I'm going to get an ice cream, man. Where is he going to drop now? Sarah is going to go hostile, right? So now his mom says, no, you're not going to get an ice cream. And I was going to lash out at his mom. Why not? Peter always gets an ice cream from his mom. Why can't I have an ice cream? So he's going to go into hostility. You've seen that, right? So in just less than a minute, he changed from happiness to hostility. Right, now, imagine his mom is going to do the same thing. You hear me, young man? Don't talk to me like that. I just told you, you're not going to get an ice cream. Now, what is going to happen next? What is going to happen next if his mom tells him once again, you're not going to get an ice cream? Yeah, that's where good communication comes in handy. Absolutely, we got it. So if the mommy tells him for the second time you're not going to get an ice cream, most likely he's going to be sad, right? Most likely he's going to be sad. Yeah, she shouldn't shout, you know. But here are the expressions of affinity. Here are the expressions of how much we like each other. We can actually see this in these emotional states, right? So to give you another example, let's say little Johnny, he wants an ice cream, but it's not super important to him. It's not super important to him. So now his mom says, no, Johnny, we're going to have dinner in an hour from now. I don't want you to have an ice cream because I'm afraid you may not want your dinner after. It might just be that he shrugs and says, okay, and he's a bit bored with the whole thing right now. He's a bit bored because he doesn't immediately have another goal. His goal was an ice cream. So that goal got blunted, and now he says, well, okay, what can I do? You see? So there we move up and down in these emotional states. Now, if we would, here's a very interesting thing to observe. Yeah. From what level on that scale, downward, do you think we start to repel others? The affinity kind of like turns negative. We start to repel other people. From what level downward? I'm talking about a generality, right? Okay, bored. All right, somebody else. Just give you a second, and I get my tea again. Hostility. All right, so the top score goes to shiny. Yeah, it's hostility. What does that mean? From hostility downward, the thinking of the person gradually becomes more negative than positive. So there's still some positive things that the person can do, but gradually the negative thinking part is going to increase. And the person gradually becomes more and more negative. Whereas above hostility, the person starts to attract, because the thinking of the person slowly goes to more and more positive thinking. Can you see that? Does that make sense? So a bored person is not very positive, but it's go like, well, let's say your partner is at home and you expect that the person cooked for you. And say, hey, what are you doing on the sofa? I thought you had dinner. Well, I had a very tiresome day. But you know what? I ordered 2 tickets for us for the movies. So, he might come across as very bored, but he's still doing something that is a bit more constructive than destructive. And when he goes up, the construction starts to go up. And when he goes down, from hostility downward, it's becoming more and more destructive. Now, here's a funny thing, because we resonate as beings with one another. So if you are generally cheerful, you do well with people who are generally cheerful. I'm going to give you an example. So let's say Johnny was very happy, and then he didn't get the ice cream, and now he was really pissed. Do you think he can feel happy at that moment? When he's really pissed, do you think he can feel happy? No. Would he understand if you talk to him in a very happy and cheerful mood? No, because he's pissed off. So what would he understand? So what the fuck is wrong with you? Oh, all of a sudden he wakes up. That is what he understands. He understands that grumpiness. Well, let's take a person in grief. The person just suffered a major loss, right? It's kind of like moving out of your space. Well, if you tell that person like, oh, you know what? I just got a fantastic new job. You should hear all about it. No response. You say, poor you, what's been happening to you? Tell me. Now all of a sudden you get a response. So we need to be on the same wavelength. Now, by the end of the evening, I'm going to show you a book that describes this more in detail. But this is actually the second part of understanding. So understanding's got a lot to do with an emotional response to things. Now, the third corner, the third factor, 1, 2, 3, The third factor is communication. So let's see, let me wipe out something on the board. So we wipe out something on the board. Okay, good. Now, let me see, take the black marker again. So what is communication? Well, first of all, let's say we take, oh yeah, let's take the picture away, Pavel. Okay. All right, so we're back on the screen. So first of all, what we see right now is in order for any communication to take place, there must be affinity. There must be affinity because that communication is supposed to go over a very tiny distance. You can right away see that if there's no affinity, you don't like that person at all, mentally, physically, there's going to be so much distance, communication couldn't really take place. It could not occur. Does that make sense? So there has to be some affinity, some love, some liking for communication to occur. Now, what do we communicate? We communicate reality. Whether that's an idea, whether it's a tangible, materialistic thing. I'm going to give you a, well, let's say a funny, a facetious example. We're going to go back to the 80s, 90s, and we had these hippies. You guys have to tell me what the word for that is in English, because I'm Dutch. But let's say these guys that had hair like this, you know, going up. Looked a bit like that. Probably tell me what it is. I tried to look it up on Google, but it didn't give me a proper translation. Punks. I love it. Okay, good. So we got a punk here. Yeah. We got a punk. Okay. Now that punk meets another guy, and he says, "I got a green dog." So he's communicating that reality. He's communicating that reality with the purpose that this guy here makes a 100% copy. Yeah. Do you see that? That is what we're trying to do when we're communicating. We're trying to get the idea across, and hopefully that guy here gets 100% copy, totally gets it. Does that make sense? Just going to see quickly what was the comments because I missed a few. Sorry for that, guys. Okay. All right. How can you stop being bored? All right. How can you become interesting? Yeah. I'm afraid that is going to be in the book that I'm going to show you tonight, Daniel. All right. Okay. Bored person can be turned interested. Absolutely. That's definitely possible. In fact, being bored does not mean being misunderstood. Perhaps people have low standards. Perhaps they're content to lie on the sofa and procrastinate and stick some kind of routine, don't you think? Absolutely. Yes. So, but here's the idea. That guy, a punk, tells his friend, "I've got a green dog." Just with the purpose that he actually gets the picture. Now, if this person here understands a punk who's been dyeing his hair, you know, and is running around in this funny outfit, he might actually get the idea, this punk here, actually, he dyed the fur of his dog. Could just be, right? and he makes a 100% copy, he gets an idea like, oh, right, he's talking about a green dog. You see what I said in the beginning, when you're talking about the real object, it's way more easier to get an agreement than when you're talking about an idea. An idea is not materialistic. So what would happen? What would happen if this person here would not make 100% copy of what he was just told? He's just been told, I've got a green dog. What would happen if he doesn't make a 100% copy? He's got some bias coming in. His mind tells him, that cannot be true. His mind tells him, green dogs do not exist. What's going to happen if he doesn't make a 100% copy? Well, I guess you can guess already, right? They would not have an agreement. If there's not a 100% copy, right? If there's no duplication whatsoever, they would not have an agreement. Actually, you can see how the picture plays out. How does it play out? So first of all, in order to have any communication at all, there must be some affinity. Now then, we're actually discussing realities. So we can only discuss the things that are really real to both of us. Because if they are really real to both of us, then we can actually agree. What would happen if you do not have agreement? What happens if you do not have agreement? Well, that means it's no longer real. A green dog, I'm sorry, that's not real to me. Is the person who actually claims that he has a green dog real to you? No, he's probably talking nonsense. Okay, now, do you still like him the same? I like him a little bit less. I think he's a bit cuckoo. Right? Do you want to communicate any further? Not so sure. All right. So how does that work? Let's put it all together in a triangle. Because these factors are interdependent. Reality, affinity, communication. See if this one works. That one is beautiful. Good. So we're going to take a triangle. So we have affinity, love, liking. We have reality. And we have communication. These three things, they make up understanding. How does that work? Well, let's say if you understand something, let's just say you really understand your partner. You'll be quite willing to communicate with your partner. You probably have quite a good amount of affinity for your partner. Your partner is quite real and it's quite easy to reach an agreement with your partner. So let's give you a funny example. So there's a lot of understanding between you and your partner. Now, your partner went to the hairdresser and you came home from work and you looked at your partner and he or she just looks gorgeous, beautiful, handsome. So that is the reality. And you tell your partner, honey, what have you done to your hair? Oh, you like it? It's fantastic. Let's say you genuinely mean that. Now, you have just strengthened that reality. You have just strengthened that agreement. Okay. So the person is probably quite excited to tell you all about it. Oh, I went to this new hairdresser in town. He's so fantastic. So you get more communication. And you see people coming closer, the affinity is expanding. In other words, that triangle, that understanding just got bigger. Let's do the reverse. You come home. What have you done to your hair? What do you mean? It's terrible. Okay. Now you're suddenly out of agreement. It's like one person thought like, this was really nice, and now you say, it looks horrible, it looks terrible. So no, you don't have any agreement. Does that person like that statement that you just made, that it was so terrible? Does the person like that? In other words, affinity, like or love? No, that person didn't like that statement. The affinity just dropped. Does the person want to communicate to you any further? Suit yourself. Now what you have is an ARC break. An ARC break. Now, fascinating stuff, isn't it? So how do you apply this in your life? How do you apply it in your life? Well, let's say you're going to go for a job interview and you don't know anything about that person. But you can look around in the space of that person and you say, okay, I'm in the office of this person. Oh, he's got his diploma on the wall. He's got a nice picture there of the family on the wall. He's got a sailing yacht, a model on his dresser. He's got a nice, unique style of furniture. And you just find any reality that you can agree with. And let's say you take the replica, the model yacht. You say, sir, like some people would say, well, it's a nice weather today, isn't it? Well, you're not going to establish much reality with that because it's such a common, it's just a bit of a common awkward statement. You could be a little bit more unique. Say, sir, just got into this room, but straight away, I love that replica that you have over there. So now you're actually hitting the person with his own reality. It's there because it's very real to that person. So you just strengthen the reality just by choosing something that you've observed yourself. The person will go into communication with you. Oh yes, thank you very much. Do you know anything about boats? Now, you picked that reality because you know something about it. He says, well, yes, as a matter of fact, I do. Yeah, I sailed a couple of times with my dad. So now you have communication going on. That director now says, you're an interesting guy. I like you already. See how that works? You're in a library, and there's the guy of your dreams, the girl of your dreams. And that person takes a certain book off the shelf. And you go like, hey, I think she's taking a book on photography. That's a good entrance, right? Let me question. Does it mean we have to agree with the other person to create better communication? No, we don't have to agree. We have to understand. That is the main thing. We only have to understand. We don't have to agree, right? So, but we have to understand. I'm going to just elaborate a little bit more on that point. But let's say we are in the library, and that lady takes a book out of the shelf. And you just happen to see, oh, all right, it's a book on photography, and you know a little bit of photography, for example, and you just make a comment on that. Hi, hey, sorry for bothering you. I see that you're getting a book there on photography. Are you into photography? And here's a fun fact. Let's say the person had the back turned against you, right? And getting the book, right? And now she hears the statement on the photography and she turns toward you. She just turned toward you. What happened to the affinity? Well, the distance changed because she turned toward you. Already the affinity has gone a little bit up. And she says, yes, as a matter of fact, we have an agreement now. As a matter of fact, I do like photography, communication. Right? She walks over to you, more affinity. How about you? You like photography? Oh, yes. And now you're building it. Now, you would be very stupid if you ask her, for example, this is the thing, like, do we have to agree? It would be very stupid to ask for example, what kind of camera you have? And she says, Nikon. Oh, but I heard that Canon is much better. No, you don't do that, right? Because what do we want? We want understanding. We don't want this fight. Oh, you have this reality. That sucks. I have my reality. It's not about different realities. Because you got 8 billion people on the planet. Everybody's got a different reality. Poof, so what? Let everybody enjoy their own reality. You got your own reality. That's fine. Right? The only purpose is that we understand each other. You got a Nikon camera. Great. Right? I understand that. So that is basically how it works. Now, I'll just give you a few questions to give you a bit of an idea. So, do you, for example, recall you were little, right, and you had you went to a party with your kids, and you had to kiss. You had to kiss a person that you didn't want to kiss. Do you remember such a thing like that? Have you experienced that? I had it a lot of times when I was a kid. It was horrible. But you know, you're at a family reunion, anniversary, birthday, whatever, and then the parents told you, no, you have to kiss everybody before we go home. Have you ever been in that situation? I hope, Sylvester, was that question of yours, was that a bit answered? Does it make sense, my explanation? We don't have to agree, we have to understand. Yeah. Okay, good. Okay, fantastic. Yeah, we'll just try to understand. If you totally oppose somebody else's reality, now you can oppose it. Now you're going to be in a fight. So now on that affinity scale, you're going to drop. You were cheerful. Now you're going to drop to moaning, complaining, criticizing. You don't want to go there. You want to stay up. All right, cool. So, but okay, nobody experienced this, that you had to kiss somebody during a party that you didn't want to. Because that would be a demanded ARC. Yeah, your parent would say, well, right now you need to like or love Auntie. Yeah, and you need to show her that you like her by giving her a kiss. Well, Auntie was not very real to you, and kissing Auntie was also not very real to you. And you didn't really want to communicate with Auntie, right? So yes, that's true. It's all about listening. It's all about listening, and you know, if you disagree, you don't have to verbalize the fact that you disagree. You can simply say, okay, I can see your viewpoint. That's fine. Now, here's another one. Have you ever felt affectionate toward a person? Have you ever felt affection toward the person that you love, but the person pushed you away? Have you ever been in that situation? Yeah, all right. This is a bit more real to you guys, huh? This question. Yeah, you felt affection for your person, but the person just pushed you away. So that person did not want your ARC. That person did not want your communication. At that point, that person had no affinity for you, didn't like you, didn't love you, and you were not real to that person. Right? That would be like an inhibited ARC. The person just didn't want your ARC. So it was a bit hard to agree with that, right? It's very hard to agree. It's very hard to communicate with that person. It was very hard to like that person. Now, have you ever been in a situation where a person is just like demanding that you agree with him or with her? Like, you know I'm right, and the person demands that you agree with that person. Now you have to agree with him or her. Have you been there? Sometimes you run into these people and they're just, they give you this sensation. They're always right. They're just demanding you have to agree with them. It's like you do or else kind of thing. Right? Now, but if you have to agree with them, that means you have to agree with their reality. And whatever is real to them might not be real to you. So now it's a demanded reality. It's demanded of you, but you didn't want to communicate with that, and you had no affinity for it. See, so every time these things break your ARC, I got a final question. It's a very, very interesting one. And do you know somebody who affects you badly after you have been in that person's company for a while? Do you know somebody who affects you badly if you've been in that person's company for a while? It's a very interesting one. All right, guys, give me a few guesses before we end off tonight. Do you know somebody who affects you badly after you have been in that person's company for a bit? Yeah, makes sense. So if we look at that, so if that person has affected you badly after you have been in that person's company, that means that you had more ARC than that other person. And that other person was a bit like a vampire. Right? Because you were close to that person, your affinity, your love, it diminished. Right? You also started to not feel happy with yourself. Your communication dropped, right? And your agreement, your reality, things that were real for you, were tampered with, were crushed, were criticized. So when your ARC drops, your ability to communicate, your ability to feel good, to feel love, your ability to see realities, when that drops because of somebody else, then you got a bit of a vampire near to you, next to you. Yeah. So I hope that this has clarified a couple of things. There's another webinar that we do which is solely on this one, on communication alone. The tool that we are presenting to you tonight is how to be more social. How to be more social is raise the understanding. Don't destroy the understanding. There's a lot of breaking of understanding happening on this planet. Right? And we don't need to engage in that little game. For you to feel good is to keep the understanding high and not engage in quarrels like, okay, my reality is better than your reality. If it is, that's fine. Just tell the person, I understand it. I understand you. And you know what? You can be right. You can be right. That is totally fine. That's all good. Do it in a way that it feels genuine, right? You're right. Absolutely. I can totally see your viewpoint. That is very correct. Now, you don't have to be slimy, right? All you want to do is prevent that things come to a clash, and that whole understanding just goes by the boards. All right. So did that make a little bit of sense to you tonight, guys? Did you get something out of this? Mm-hmm. All right, beautiful. Now I'm going to make a very bold move. Yeah, I hope you're ready. I'm going to make a very, very bold move. I think, Pavel, you have the link, right? Don't put it on yet. Pavel's going to put a quote, he's going to put a link in the chat. Now, maybe I should have cleared up the subject with you before we got started. And maybe some of you guys would actually have left and say, Erik, this is totally unacceptable. I do not want to hear anything about this subject. Okay, what is going on right now? So the data on that emotional scale, the affinity scale of emotions, the data of this ARC triangle, and a whole lot more can actually be found in this Toolbox for Life. I call it a Toolbox for Life. This is a book that gives very succinct pieces of technology to you on how to be, for example, more organized, on how to find your goals and direction in life, how to build better relationships, on knowing who you can trust, on how to handle your ups and downs, on how to reach your full potential. Believe it or not, these tools are actually in this book. And you see right away, this book has been written by L. Ron Hubbard, who happens to be the founder of Scientology. That's why I'm bringing this up. So probably some of you guys might be offended. So how dare you do this? Well, believe it or not, there's more than 11,000 Scientology organizations on the planet. There's thousands upon thousands upon thousands of people that use this technology nowadays. It's been laughed at, it's been criticized, it's been ridiculed. But actually, when you read it, you'll probably find out it makes a lot of sense. And it's got common day solutions. It's got common day knowledge that you can take in, realize, gosh, that's actually the way it works. And I can use this. So for that reason, what picture do you want to show? One of the 11,000 organizations. So Pavel actually wants to share a picture on the screen. So, but basically, it's the end of the evening. I actually want you to, I want to encourage you to get more knowledge about life itself. And a lot of that knowledge can actually be gotten from the book. The link is going to be appearing in the chat. That is my suggestion for tonight. Get some knowledge, because your abilities are a whole lot better than you believe. And you can do something about that in order to improve yourself, improve your abilities. Tonight we're talking about social skills, communication skills, and you have a lot that you can develop, right, for yourself. So that is a book that will help you to find direction, that will help you to be more focused, that will help you to build your confidence, that will help you to choose your friends, to know who are the ones with the good intentions, who are the ones with the bad intentions. In other words, how do you select the vampires out of that category, find the good people to associate with, how you can be more effective, productive, achieve more. It's a whole lot of tools in there. It comes in 50 different languages. So let's say you speak Portuguese, you speak Arabic, you speak Chinese, you speak Farsi, you speak Nepalese, you speak German. Every language, every major language is there. Now, the last thing I want to do is I want to share my WhatsApp number with you. So maybe you still have tons of questions, which I can imagine. We only did 1 hour. We actually exceeded this webinar by almost 15 minutes. I'm really sorry I took more of your time. I was in a very, very relaxed mood tonight. But let's say you still have tons of questions. But Erik, does it work for me? What do I need to do? How can I improve? And so on. Yeah. In case you have any personal questions, go ahead and send me a WhatsApp. Numbers in there. Right. So basically, on the book, very, very shortly, it comes with, if you would order in the next 40 minutes, it comes with free delivery pretty much everywhere on the planet. It's 17 euros for the guys in the UK. It's about 15 pounds. It's a no-brainer. You can almost choose between a hamburger meal, which you're gonna dump in the toilet tomorrow, or have this knowledge that's gonna stay with you for the rest of your life. All right, good. Sir Rife, thank you for the lovely talk. Good evening to you. Thank you guys, it's been nice to have you. We're gonna do another one again next week. Not sure what the topic is about, but I'm sure you'll find us on Meetup again or Eventbrite. I sincerely hope you got something out of this tonight. I hope this was helpful. I hope it answers some of your questions. And I'm sorry that it took a bit more time, but maybe it was a good thing too. So have a great rest of your evening. Do feel free to text me if you want to know more. And then I look forward to see you next time. Bye for now.